And that's why there were so many like sort of minor conflicts. Oh, and welcome again to my underground lair. If you're just tuning in, so left off in the last video with carpetbaggers, this kind of pejorative, derisive, negative term for Northerners who were immigrating to the South. But now Northerners had their own fun term for former Confederates, and that was the scalawag. So you've got scalawags and carpetbaggers, because the thing about the South is these southern states, who were once the Confederate states, they of course lost the war, but the people who really supported the Confederacy, they didn't go anywhere. They were still there. You even had former Confederate officers, generals, having to reintegrate into society. One such general was Nathan Bedford Forrest. And amidst all of these small conflicts, and you got the fights between carpetbaggers and scalawags, you've got politicians trying to implement Reconstruction policies, military governors, all this stuff. You then have Nathan Bedford, who is basically trying to recreate society with cats. So Nathan Bedford is basically trying to recreate the status quo antebellum. He wants to recreate what life was like in the South before the war. He is not happy, along with a lot of other Southern whites. They're not happy with the fact that African Americans are being guaranteed equal rights. They're not happy with, especially, them being given the vote, because now former slaves are being put on equal footing with their former masters. So Nathan Bedford Forrest becomes one of the key members, the key founders of the Ku Klux Klan. And they used fear and violence to basically keep essentially black people in their place. They used intimidation tactics. They would throw stones through windows. They would set fire to crosses in yards. Sometimes they would even burn down people's homes. They would burn down black churches, schools. All of these intimidation tactics are really to keep people from the polls, because that in that instance, that was basically black people exercising their full authority, being able to put people in government who would support them. And so you've got politicians in Southern governments trying to turn back the clock. Then you have these sort of paramilitary organizations, these kind of organizations which try to seem official, like the Klan, who are basically trying to keep back black progress. And the sad fact is, in some cases, they failed, because obviously they couldn't turn back these new amendments, the 14th, 15th Amendments, not the 13th either. But they were able to succeed in intimidating black people from the polls. They just weren't willing to risk their lives and their families to be that forceful. And then you have other ways that Southern society is kind of fighting back. A lot of businesses would not give credit to African American families. Credit just being, extra time to pay stuff back. They wouldn't rent land. So instead, you got this new system called sharecropping, which is basically you live on a plantation land, or you might be given a piece, but in order to essentially pay rent, you have to share a portion of your crop. So, for example, if you're growing potatoes, you have to give, say, maybe a third to half your crop to the farm owner, which